On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on preventing fire disasters in the country.
The new year started with a blaze of action, literally, across Nigeria, from the Federal Capital Territory to Lagos, Kwara, Bayelsa, and Benue. Firefighters were on full alert, tackling multiple fire outbreaks.
Absolutely, Demola. From the very first minutes of 2026, officials were calling it one of the busiest festive season deployments in recent history.
And it's not just the scale that is shocking. The scales were huge. In Abuja's Wuse district, a popular restaurant was engulfed in flames just 23 minutes past midnight on New Year's Day.
And thanks to rapid response, property worth billions of naira was saved. But the country also mourned an 11-year-old in Yenagoa, that's Bayelsa State, where a candle left unattended to sparked a tragedy that could have been avoided.
So sad. Controller General, Federal Fire Service, Olumide Adeyemi, says these incidents are reminders that simple precautions like unplugging appliances, avoiding indoor fireworks, and watching open flames can save lives.
And that really drives home the point. Fire are not just a headline story. They are a reality. Nigerians live every day with it, from cities to rural communities. A single spark this Harmattan season can destroy homes, crops, and livelihoods.
But there is hope. With trained firefighters, early warning systems, and stronger enforcement of safety measures, Nigeria can turn the tide. Absolutely.
And that message is crystal clear. Vigilance isn't just smart, it's life-saving. When humans, climate, and flames collide, preparedness isn't optional, it becomes very essential.
Very essential indeed, and that's why we are giving attention to this issue on the program today. Our panel of guests will tell us how Nigerians can prevent these fire disasters. Welcome to the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak, and I'm all smiles, and that's because if you are there, feel a little thing different today around us, you aren't imagining it. That's because I know, Demola, you were here Monday, I wasn't, but it's a brand new set, redesigned, just to give you a 2026 viewing experience. It's on this note I welcome you, but don't forget, Chukwudi Okoliwaja will be joining us much later for the newspaper review. And right now, we're having some comfort. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Recently, Nigerians witnessed an alarming increase in fire outbreaks across the country. Now, these fires are the prompt for our conversation today on the program. And just before we delve into our conversation deeper, let's listen to our background report by Ibrahim Bello Kunda.
Fire outbreaks in Nigeria are a recurring menace, driven by electrical sources, carelessness, and systematic regulatory failures. In the heart of the dry season, they come in epidemic proportions. Concerned persons point out that fire outbreaks are constant in markets, shopping complexes, residential areas, among others, leading to loss of lives and property worth billions of naira. Firefighters ushered in the new year 2026 on full operational alert, battling multiple fire outbreaks across the country. The first fire incident of the year occurred just 23 minutes after midnight when flames engulfed a restaurant at River Plate Park, Wuse, Abuja. While the fire in Wuse was being contained, firefighters in Lagos, Imo, Gombe, Kwara, and Yenagoa in Bayelsa State were simultaneously responding to fire emergencies, leading to loss of billions of naira. Experts insist that designs and construction of buildings in markets, houses, or public places in most cases lack access and have little or no firefighting equipment in the event of a fire outbreak. While everyone is aware that such building codes and regulations are available, here in Nigeria, they are rarely enforced, leading to greater loss during emergencies. How can Nigeria do away with rampant fire outbreaks? How prompt is the emergency response system in the country? And what can be done to ensure compliance to standard safety measures? These and more are some of the questions Guest and Good Morning Nigeria will find answers to as we take a look at how fire outbreaks can be prevented in the country.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for that background report and for those questions that you have asked. And I believe that our guests have listened to your report and they will provide answers to them. So joining us on this program this morning is Paul Abraham, Deputy Controller of Fire, National Public Relations Officer, Federal Fire Service. He's also the Head of Corporate Services. Mr. Abraham, it's good to have you join us on this.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
And Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, sir.
All right. Also joining us here is Bitrus Samuel, is the Deputy Director General Services, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. It's good to have you, Bitrus.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right.
All right, let's take you to our Zoom connection where we have Simon Patrick Ubi, who is a supervisory board member of Youth for Road Safety. Mr. B, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. We also have from Kaduna, Dr. Abbas Idris. Dr. Idris is President, Risk Manager, Society of Nigeria, and former DG of the FCT Emergency Management Agency. Dr. Idris Abbas, thank you very much once again for us on the program.
How are you? Happy New Year. How are you? Happy.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Idris. Well, let's start the discussion with Mr. Abraham now. This year, I mean, just a few minutes after the midnight, we had this fire outbreak in Abuja here, in Wuse, to be precise. And likewise in other states like Lagos and other parts of the country. This, often, fire incidents, across the country. What exactly is happening? Why are we having this, number of fire, especially during this festive period?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, like you rightly noted, the first fire that we encountered this 2026 was just a few minutes after midnight into the new year. And it happened at the River Plate Garden, not far from here, in Abuja. And of course, we had reports from Yanagwa and the rest of them. Why do we have this fire outbreak at this time of the year? Maybe festivities, and beyond festivities, this is Harmattan season. Okay. Harmattan season in this part of the world, you have a lot of dry air, which means fast fire, and then it's humid sometimes, and then again it gets cold. So you have this paradox of weather that sometimes mislead people. So maybe when they go to bed early at night, sometimes they leave the air condition working, and sleep off, and all of that, and then there's power surge and all of that. But River Plate, to be exact, that caught our attention because on the 17th of December, the Controller General had a virtual meeting with all zonal commands, and his instruction was clear: no leave, no break. Every operational man in the Federal Fire Service must be on duty throughout the festivities, And little wonder that instruction became critical because the response we have crossing into the new year was massive. I mean, you just heard the reports. It was massive. And it goes to show that a lot needs to be done. But one thing is very clear. From our data repository center, more than 80% of the fire we have in this part of the world can be avoidable. And that is the sad part of the story. When he did give that brigade order, he also launched the Harmattan Fire Safety Campaign, no fireworks, no fuel in jerry cans, okay? No fireworks, no fuel in jerry cans, okay? Because of the festivity, put off electric appliances when not in use and all of that. And this was a hashtag that went viral. So you expect that Nigerians will comply. How did River Plate incident happen? It was fireworks. Just at that midnight, and people started shooting fireworks. One dropped. You remember that the rules around the parks and recreation in Abuja is that the structures are temporal. So they are majorly woods and, and all of that. And, that's how that place went up in flames.
All right.
So it was a direct breach of instruction. No fireworks, no fuel in jerry cans. These things can activate fire very quickly, especially at this time of the year.
We will speak to the issue of compliance because indeed the no fireworks instruction has been on for a long time. But in fact, this year, the fireworks was somewhere where I live started even much earlier, and then nobody seemed to care. But let me start on this note. You talked about your data repository center registry. From that, do you think that we are facing more fire disasters now? What's changing? What has changed, or what's happened?
Okay. So, the thing about data is that data brings trends. It may not be that we have more fire outbreaks now, but we now have data. Okay, so there was a time in the past where these fires can happen and you don't even know about them. But right now, the world is becoming a global village. So from the center, we can tell where fire happens in Maiduguri, in Yanagwa, in Lagos, in Kano, in Zamfara. Okay, at a click of a button. In fact, it's designed in such a way that we can see the fire, and as our men are responding. So we can tell when they left, when they arrived, when they damped down, when they returned to station. This is the work of data. It doesn't necessarily mean there are more fire, because a lot of campaigns are going in. And I can tell you that people are becoming aware. The enforcement team, which is part of the IAIDA's investigation, inspection, and enforcement, they're all over the place. Only yesterday, they almost shut a market down because it was embarrassing to go into the market and find out that the level of compliance in first aid firefighting was very minimal.
Well, before we take the questions to our other guests, I'm just wondering, the trend and pattern is such that outbreaks, we have more outbreaks or more fire disasters during festive period, especially during the November, the Ember months, yes. Is that coincidental? Or some would say probably it's an act of God.
No, it's not coincidental. Fire, by its definition, must have three components come together. Oxygen, fuel, must come together for you, and heat to get fire. There's no prayer that can stop that fire from happening when heat, oxygen, and fuel comes together. At this time of the year, the Umba month in Nigeria is our Harmattan season. So there's a lot of dry air. There's a lot of heat. Once you add fuel to this equation, fire will happen. Because it's a reaction, it's a chemical reaction that engenders fire. Okay, so I'll give you the example in this case. You have a lot of dry air. That means when you do your fireworks, that air will carry it. And it drops on simple hay or paper.
Even dry grass.
Dry grass. What's that? That's fuel. You have provided that heat, fuel. And then because everywhere is dry, the air moves freer. Fire has happened. And that is why there was a complete campaign, which we are still on, across the country, on Harmattan fire safety.
The challenge we're likely to face is that, especially during the crossover nights, a lot of people, they just want to display the fact that they are bangers and they have to, display it. But just from the report, we gathered that, the fire at Yenogwa, a child was killed. Likewise, in Lagos, the same thing. I mean, some people died as a result of this fire incident. How does fire services, balance efforts, property protection, and saving lives? How do you manage it?
Okay, managing that for us, of course, is very saddening, for the little boy. I mean, even if he's an adult, Controller General and every member of management is not happy when we lose lives. Our mandate is to protect lives and properties. Okay, and when fire happens, it is our desire that, we go in there and salvage as much as we can. But when death occurs, it becomes almost like a burden on us. But of course, we would have done our best. Like the Yanagua fire, the turnout time was good. That's another challenge we have.
What about the Lagos one?
Oh, okay, the Lagos fire, it's the great Nigerian insurance fire, and then there's the Arena fire in Oshodi, as the case may be. For the great Nigerian fire, it's a fire that we fought from 25th, my memory didn't fail me, up until almost the new year. It's a 25-story building,
yes.
And truth be told, Federal Fire Service in Nigeria is not where we used to be. But we're also not where we ought to be, especially if you're talking about global competitiveness. There are certain levels of infrastructure that we don't have in the service, and we must own up to.
Mr. Abraham, we will get to. I mean, everybody. There's always a gap. I mean, no agency is complete in itself. I mean,
that's what we're having this discussion anyway.
Exactly. But let's come to NEMA, Mr. Beatrice. Most times when people hear national emergency management and all that, they relate it to related with flood disasters, maybe other humanitarian, crises other than fire. In any fire incident or outbreak, what usually would be the first reaction that NEMA does?
Okay, thank you very much. You may need to know that NEMA is the focal agency for disaster management in Nigeria. Now, when we say disaster, it cuts across flood, fire, and other forms of emergencies. Now, NEMA is the coordinator. We only coordinate. Now, in the event of a fire, what NEMA does is to get the relevant agencies of government who are first responder agencies to respond to that fire.
For instance,
the fire services, either Federal Fire Service or the state fire services. Now, we work closely with them.
Who contacts who? Is it the fire service that alerts you, or NEMA alerts the fire service?
It all depends who gets the alerts first. And alerts are very, very important, because the earlier you get the alerts, the more effective your response will be. Now, there's a national call center, which is the 112. Now, we expect that in the event of fire, the public, the general public, or whoever it is that discovered this fire, should be able to call these numbers. And if this number goes, that particular location, we have almost all of the agencies of government. So if it's fire-related, that call terminates with the fire services. If it is health-related, it terminates with the ambulance services. Okay. So that is what NEMA does, the coordinating role. And then NEMA also builds capacities of these first responder agencies through trainings. There are trainings that we do, and they are involved in this so that they will do their work much, much better. So you find NEMA, most of the time, if you have an incident, that fire incident, you find NEMA there doing their coordinating role, because there are multiple agencies that are coming together to fight this fire. And you need someone who would do the coordination. Now, there are requirements. Whenever you have fires, there are requirements. They need, just like he said earlier, no agency have 100% capacity. So what we do is to fit in the pieces. We get this capacity from here, and then we bring into the rescue
response time is very critical.
Yeah, response.
Apart from Lagos,
yes.
Where we know within, minutes or even seconds, first responders are at the scene. What about other states? What's the minimum? Should I say minimum response? Yes.
Yeah, in practice is 5 minutes. From receiving the alert to response. It should be within 5 minutes. But there are challenges. The way access, particularly. Sometimes you get the calls to the right authority, particularly now fire service, and access to the fire location is always a problem. So that speaks to our urban planning, and particularly in markets. Markets, for whatever reason, are always crowded. And every time you engage the market authority to see how you can have good access in the event that there's a fire, sometimes you agree, you sit down, you talk to them, and the next minute they are all back and taking the access.
The Lagos fire, because we had our correspondent, Joel Pukwola, who was at the scene. That's the Lagos fire at Mountain Street. And he was right behind, and we could see, the raging fire. The building was still on fire. And we asked, why? I think it was, Demola, you were the one that asked, why is the building still on fire if the responders, were there?
Now, if you know Martin Street in Lagos, of course, it's a very, very crowded area. The Balogu Market and the other adjoining building structures that are there. Access was a major problem.
This was not an issue of access. It was an issue of reach. It was reach, not access.
Yes. What I'm trying to say here is this. Of course, that is a multi-story building. And access even into the building and the right equipment. And somehow Lagos State State Emergency Management Agency, and even the Lagos State Fire Service, the Lagos State Building Control Agency, they all came together. There are some levels of capacity. Now, fire is not something that you walk in immediately and it comes, you put it out.
Yeah.
The best time to fight a fire is at the early stages, the incipient stages, and that is the best. And even a 5 kg fire extinguisher can deal with that quickly, but what even 20 fire trucks cannot do. So if fire starts raging, when fire starts, it keeps growing. It keeps growing. So the technicalities, how to reach this fire, that is what you have to do. So it's not something you just walk in and immediately, because it takes time.
All right, it takes time. Thank you so much, Mr. Bridges, for that. Let's bring in Dr. Idris now. And we've been talking about human negligence and the issue of no compliance, especially where we have safety standards in the marketplace, in crowded areas. You find people not complying with safety measures and all that. So what does infrastructure or lack of it play in the scale of disasters, fire disaster in this country?
For that very beautiful question, in our own association, Risk Managers Society of Nigeria, we prioritize prevention, not even response. All these discussions we're talking about response. Why can't we prevent fire? Can't we prevent fire? Why can't we educate the public about the impact and the consequences of fire outbreak? Every year we wait for Ember Month, and Ember Month comes with fire. In some issues, there are technical aspects, there are mechanical aspects, and there are even superstitious aspects of fires. There are a lot of, by my little stay in the FCT, Emergency Management Agency, I was able to discover that there was a market that always got fire between November and December, and same period. And I had to mount an investigation. I discovered that some of the marketers, they don't want to cross over with their left out goods. And so therefore, some of the fires are triggered by the marketers themselves. And we had to call them and talk to them to show them that we knew what they were doing before they shifted ground. So, and then if you look at it also, from the planning aspect of all our developmental infrastructures, you find out that fire is neglected. Can the fire service tell me that they vet all the buildings that are going on in Abuja or any part of the country before it becomes a building, a construction? So inferior cables are used in insulating the building, and then there are no fire defense equipment in most cases, especially public buildings. And where you find them, they are just decorative. They are not there. And there is no simulation that can, carry out those occupants of the building, like the Great Nigerian Insurance House. If they had simulations regularly, and then they know where to go, a lot of things will have been saved. And that is why also when we have fires, some people are dropping through the windows. And then from the government perspective itself, where are the infrastructure? If, for instance, we are building Abuja as a modern city, where are the fire hydrants in Abuja that a fireman can run and take a water and go back to the fire scene immediately? We don't have them. We are constructing roads, but no one single hydrant that is being considered as part of the road constructions. So how can we develop? And how can we really do? And you go to a very big city, you find out that they have only one fire station, and the fire station is located far, and the city keep expanding. So therefore, even if there is fire, no matter how early you call the firemen, because of the logistics and certain things, they will not get to the scene of the incident before the fire escalates. And people didn't know what to do before the firemen came. So they open all the windows. By the time you open the windows, the man from the Federal Fire Service has told you that the triggers are, one of them is also the breeze. And once you open the window, then you are now escalating the fire to another place. But if you can close all the windows, you confine the fire within that particular area, and the firemen will be able to come. But it's good Samaritans who are coming with good intention to extinguish the fire will start breaking the windows, breaking the roof, and then coming with different kinds of things like fire, water, even where there is no need for water. Because not all fire that you can use water to extinguish. So they come with sand. They are helping, yes. But because there was no prior education for telling people how to prevent fire in their own homes, in their own offices, and when it happens, the committee, they're supposed to know what it is there. But they don't. They are not aware of this. So we need to really carry out a lot of things that will educate the public, and then in our own planning, we also make sure that we start early. We put all the fire defense equipment before you vet a building plan to be constructed. You make sure that it is there, and then the firemen should be part of the supervision of that building, because at every stage, if it comes to electrical installations, the firemen is supposed to certify that yes, they are using certified equipment, they are using certified cable, and not just an inferior cable, because a lot of things, especially a building that is constructed, that is contracted, you find out that the contractor will have to reduce the quality of whatever that is used in our meant to be used for the construction. So we have to emphasize on prevention of fire, which we can, if we can really do the needful, ensure that all the necessary infrastructures all the necessary education is given. We don't start educating the public until when it is Ember month. Why do we have to wait? Fire doesn't wait. It can happen in January, it can happen in April, it can happen in May. So why do we have to wait? All we need to do is keep educating the public, enlightening them, and then fire exit. We create fire exit where necessary and ensure that those fire exits are working. Evacuation drills and other things has to be carried out. The Great Nigerian House, up to now, fire is still on in that building. What are we waiting for? Would we want another country to come and extinguish fire for us? If we can, then we have to reduce the number of floors we are even building, if we cannot be able to really extinguish. I know some places they have problem of platform. They cannot be able to have a platform that will take them to even fit floor to extinguish fire. Once there is fire above first floor, they will find it very difficult to get there. So all this is an investment that government is supposed to do, and to ensure that we save life and property. If you go to developed countries, you look at the long story buildings in the developed countries. Firemen goes there and then they extinguish the fire. You may not even hear about the fire incident. But here, 5th floor, as I'm talking to you, is going to be a problem. What more of 10 and 20 floors if we have? And we keep approving such buildings, such floors, without commensurate facilities that will prevent the loss and property in that building. So we have to emphasize on prevention. All other things will come if we have put prevention at the first burner of our own priority.
All right, Dr. Baz, thank you. I'm still going to stay with you, but just to let our, the viewer know that you can also send us your own concerns, your suggestions, your views, or what you think can add value to our conversation. But Dr. Baz, I like that you have weaved in the element of leadership responsibility into our conversation. And I'm also glad that once you were a boss, over the state agency, emergency agency. And I'm just wondering, Lagos State seems to be one of the few states, investing heavily in equipment, especially equipment for emergency response, including fire outbreaks. In budgeting, what usually is contained in in your budgeting? What are the kind of requests that you make, that form part of your larger budgeting?
With you, the budgeting system we have in Nigeria does not consider priorities. It is an envelope budgeting we do. And if, for instance, when I was the DG of an agency, one platform, if I say I want to buy in the FCT, will overshadow the entire budget of the agency. And then by the time you go to defend the budget, they will just give you an envelope. And the envelope will not even buy you a pickup that will work on that. If you really want to invest, you have to invest in fire prevention. It costs a lot of money because you need very good fire equipment, and you need also protective things for the firemen, because they go into the district. You can hardly bring out a fireman in the entire nation who is well kitted in this country that we have. And firemen will agree with me that yes, it is costly to keep one fireman, but it is not a mismanagement, because a fireman is expected to go into the fire and extinguish the fire without being harmed. But do we have breathing equipment? Do we have protective equipment? Assault gear, all those things, do we have them? We don't. So we allow them to go. So our budget is not giving priority to those preventive issues. And that is why I said even in some states, you find only one fire station serving the entire state capital. And it's supposed to be every district must have a fire service. A functional fire service with a functional equipment, with a trained fireman who can, and then with an alert system that can trigger response immediately. But in our own situation, what we used to do was that I activate NEMA activate fire service activate federal road safety. We all need these people around before. Even the firemen for their own protection, the police, the civil defense, and other securities have to cordon the area. And in most cases, our firemen have been beaten innocently for not coming on time. Meanwhile, it has not been reported. And sometimes it's even a wrong call. Somebody will just drive his car, go to the fire station nearby, report, and then lead the truck. By the time they come there, the mob will now jump on them that the fire has started long time ago and they didn't come on time. So all this, we need to educate the public. We need to tell them, we need to really do the needful and ensure that we equipped the firemen, equip the station, and then also decentralize the locations of the fire stations. And we can do that even by prioritizing taking the hazard mapping of the particular area. If in Abuja, I know the area that are hazardous to fire, then we start building fire stations, equipping the stations, and then training the firemen, giving them adequate protection. And then we move like that based on priorities. But we don't. You hardly hear any person as a leader talking about this year we are going to prevent the losses that is coming from the fire, from the trillions of this. Nobody is talking about it. So we need to change our attitude, and that is what Risk Managers Society of Nigeria is emphasizing and also propagating, that we have to carry out a risk assessment. First, you have to know your risk. If you know your risk, separate them. There are risks that you can be able to retain. There are risks that you can be able to transfer the risk to professionals like the insurance companies. So all this we need to do. And fire insurance is the commonest and the very cheapest insurance that you can buy in Nigeria. And it has so many perils that are covered, including the flood that we're talking about, impact and all other things that can cover. But all this because there was no education in that aspect. So many people are being affected innocently and losing their own property and lives because of that. So we really need to change. Prevention first before response. Let the firemen have no response at all from January to December. And then they should now, the fire service also should embark on their own campaign by having stimulation and evacuation drills. In most cases, you go to a place, like I said, the exit point has been blocked. So if there is fire, there was a problem. And there was a time fire started from the staircase. Most People at the top floor were coming out through the window and dropping. Most of them died. Meanwhile, the fire was even under this thing because there was no drill, there was no education, so people feel scared, afraid, and once they say there is fire, they become panic and all this. And even if they don't become panic, how do you escape from the fire incident?
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Abbas Idris. You have raised a lot of issues from your, delivery there, and we need to change, the way we handle situation, especially when it comes to managing disasters in this country. Besides the fact that you mentioned lack of adequate training, logistics, and so many others. Let's bring in Mr. Samuel now into this discussion. And Dr. Idris has raised a lot of issues, especially when it comes to coordinating, human activities around, disasters area, especially, during fire disasters. What do you think about the coordination of federal government agencies when it comes to, tackling, disaster in this country? What's your take on it?
Well, thank you so much. You've said it all. Dr. Idris has, covered a lot of issues and discussions around this. I feel like, packing my computer and going to bed. But you asked a very important question. I think before I respond to that, I like to say that the issue at hand, hinge largely on the culture. What is our culture or attitude towards safety? We live in a nation where we do not prioritize much around on safety. We spend billions of naira in infrastructure, but we don't see as much investment around safety. And that's the difference between developed countries and developing nation. They've prioritized and safety. They spent billions of dollars, in infrastructure as much as in issues of safety. In terms of coordinations, I think we have issues around coordination. For instance, the 112 national emergency, like there are instances where the number is called, the response time is poor. You dial an emergency line that is supposed to be picked immediately, but it takes time to connect. That is the first layer of issue. And then when it's even connect, it takes more time for the first respondent to reach where this fire is occurring. But even though the 112 emergency line have its own issue, how many Nigerians know about this line? What's the level of education that Dr. Abbas has talked about? And so it's not just a one factor problem. It is a multi-factor problem that rests around proactiveness and reactive. So what we have in Nigeria, we are more reactive to these issues. But in developed nation, they are more proactive. Proactive in the sense that there are investments going out in terms of what do we do in the future to prevent fire in buildings, in designing infrastructure, in construction. Those factors are built in when these decisions are made. On the other hand, in our nation, we focus more on reacting to the fire, which is always not, which is the last aspect of recommendation for safety expert. We heard Paul talking about how the commander gave order for the commanding officers to be alert during the festive period. But what we would rather recommend is that beyond the festive period, beyond when these fire incidents are recorded the more, there should be engagement. There should be activities going on, especially in the area of education, public awareness, right, and ensuring that constructions and building aligns with the building code. We have wonderful laws. The problem often is enforcement, and that's also the difference between developed countries and developing country. I would like to talk a lot around passive prevention and active prevention. Like I said, we are more reactive, which is not often recommended. We should be more proactive, and in fire prevention we have two type of approaches, which is the passive prevention and also the active prevention. The passive prevention talks about the built-in systems, such as the kind of fire resistance we use, which are all contained. Again, these things are all contained. I'm sure they are all contained in the fire code. I'm sure Dr. Paul would highlight more on that. I don't have more details around that. So focusing efforts in that passive prevention, and then on the aspect of active prevention, which deals around responding to incident. It talks about having system that detects and responds to fire incidents, such as sprinkler systems in building, fire alarms, extinguishers, and suppression system. All of these things are contained in our fire code, but the big question is, are we enforcing them? What level of investment is put into, increasing the capacity of those who work to ensure that safety is the order of the day. So we've also noticed that, the sectors such as the fire service, they are not well funded, and somebody need to say it the way it is. They are poorly funded when you compare them with other countries of the world. They are poorly funded. They need to be adequately funded such that they would increase their capacity. They would also have equipment that are necessary to contain fire when that happen. And so it's not just a one approach fit. It has to be holistic. Education has to be prioritized. The engineering aspect has to be also prioritized. Enforcement has to be top on the list. And then the emergency response system should also come in, but that should come on the later part of it. So it's not a one side of one factor solution. It has to be holistic. But
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Obi. Thank you for all the points that you have raised. Of course, you talked about the passive and the active, prevention methods and all that. But I just want to ask, because Dr. Abbas talked about prevention, which is very critical, which is the context of what we're here for. How does, youth lifestyle unintentionally, trigger fire, and what can be done?
Yes, young people are full of energy, and they want to take risks. They want to do things that hasn't been done, something that is not common, and so that there is that tendency for youthful exuberance, and that's why education comes in. Education is not just a public awareness. We need to also teach in schools about fire safety. In NYC, we have the Federal Road Safety Club. That is for road safety. I'm not sure if we have fire service. If we have, then there's need for more engagement with those young people, because that's where it begins, right? We also need to ensure that even in primary schools, in secondary school, there are curriculums that are safety focused. Because at the end of the day, without safety, whatever we've spent our lives building would one day collapse. And so there is need to be that priority. In as much as we're doing anything, safety has to work side by side with anything we do. And so that education has to come from primary education, secondary education, and even tertiary education. Once young people are groomed with that safety perspective, the tendency for them to avoid some certain risk factor that can lead to safety are high. But if we don't prioritize that, then we will see a cycle of young people taking risks and not knowing the implication of what they are doing.
Advocacy slogans do you communicate to the youths?
Repeat that again. I didn't get that clearly, sir.
Advocacy slogans. What are the slogans? In carrying out your advocacy, what are the slogans that you use to communicate to the youths?
Well, safety first, but we communicate that to youth, safety first. But again, it's on the periphery, right? There is more that needs to be done in terms of in their formative, stage. Formative stage starts from primary school, secondary school, and even at the tertiary level. There is more that need to go in. Other than the advocacy. The advocacy we do, it's around public awareness. Reminding them is like reminding them. It doesn't go in details. But those details around safety has to, take place in primary or secondary school or even tertiary education. That's where the government needs to pay more attention. That's where I think the fire safety need to invest more of their time, going to this education institution or working side by side with Ministry of Education to have this curriculum integrated. And so as advocate, what we do will now be public enlightenment, which is more like reminding people on the right thing they need to do. But again, education without enforcement is like an entertainment. So enforcement needs to also go handy, alongside with education. And that's where we need to also empower the fire service by increasing their budgetary allocation, investing a lot of resources so that they can have the right equipment to fight fire when it arises.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Samuel there. Education without enforcement is like entertainment. Okay, your points are well noted. Let's come back to the studio now, Mr. Abraham. You have listened to the various, submissions from all our guests, and there is this one particular one, and that is electrical faults remain a top cause of domestic fires. Are there plans for stricter, inspection or public campaigns? Samuel just talked about enforcement now. Some critics say building codes and fire safety regulations are poorly enforced. What is the fire service doing about all this?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just go back a little, just to bring us up to speed with some of the conversation my colleagues, both at the studio and on air, has dropped.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that as to education, at the Federal Fire Service, we have what we refer to as the school outreach for both primary and secondary school. And this school outreach is across the country. So we actually have safety officers posted to schools, and they have their scheduled time where they begin to teach the children, on fire safety. You asked about a slogan. For example, one of that easy slogan among young people is that fire is a good servant, but a bad master. Because when he's under control, it's good, he can do a lot of things for you. But once he's out of control, he's a very bad master. So we do that. As for NYC, Federal Fire Service, across all camps, within the 2-3 weeks that they're in camp, Federal Fire Service is there for their orientation, train them on fire safety, fire prevention, and all of that. That's as far as education is concerned. Campaign, we talked about the Hamatan Fire Safety Campaign. We also had the National Fire Safety Week. This was an event that happened in all commands in Nigeria simultaneously for 1 week, Mondays through Friday, sometimes in October. And it was hugely, attended to, where we went to economic hubs, went to markets, went to schools, and then we had stakeholders engaging, traditional rulers, and all other associations, to ensure that at least we begin to build a culture. And interestingly, the theme was on reorientation, culture. Fire safety culture in Nigeria is actually low, but we're trying to, pull it up. And then when I go into, that's on part of the campaign. Then right now, there's a task force on public building audit. And I think that speaks squarely to the question you are asking.
Yeah.
And I must say, quite frankly, that this task force, I'm a member of that task force, is headed by the ACG in charge of IIE. He's the chairman of that task force. And then we have sub-task force across all the states of the Federation for public and private building audit. And that audit is ongoing. We go to public buildings. We want to see their level of compliance. Truth be told, from the data that we have gathered, there's a huge level of compliance. Okay? Now. And a lot of people are also very receptive. When we come, we didn't know they were going to be this receptive to us at the federal and even at the state level.
What about the local?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. Sub-national. Okay. The reception has been very warm. Welcoming us. Please come and see what do we have, what do we need to add, and all of that. Controller General met with the chairman, hair group. That's Mr. Tony Elumelu. Tony Elumelu, in one swap, in partnership with the Federal Fire Service, has accepted to collaborate and train 200 persons per state, which we had distilled down to local governments. Each local government will have at least 6, 7, 9, depending on the number of local governments in that state. And what are they going to do? We're going to bring them to the capital and train them on fire safety. These are not fire officers. These are vigilante groups, youth leaders, market women.
They are locals.
They're locals.
Maybe you should extend that to us as well. You should take some of our staff and
in NTA.
Yes.
No, that's not a problem.
Yes.
So 7,400 across the country. That is huge on fire safety preparedness. So every time fire happens, I see Nigerians are becoming aware. But of course, you talked about enforcement. For us at the
now, before you talk about enforcement, tell us more about private sector coming to partnering.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, the Tony Elumelu Foundation and Federal Fire Service is private driven.
Okay.
This is a group that is interested in, and remember the Afri land fire.
Okay.
Where he lost some of his staff.
Yes,
he was very pained. And so when we met with him, he said, look, whatever we need to do to make more Nigerians aware, we will do it. I will support you. Let's collaborate. That program will soon be rolled out.
Are you reaching out to other private sectors as well?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yes.
You need to reach out.
So we're working on that. Private sector participation is because, truth be told, government alone cannot do it. You talk about response time. Response time is dependent on proximity to fire stations.
Okay, I think it's a good place to just put you on hold, and then I will take a break. When we come back,
talk about the enforcement.
Yes, we'll talk about enforcement and of course response to emergency calls.
As this year draws to a close, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for your continued support. From breaking news to heartwarming stories, we are committed to bringing you credible content and delivering captivating programs that keep you glued to your screens. Our team is committed to providing exceptional service to delight our clients. We say thank you to those who have supported us through the year, from government agencies to corporate clients, political parties, religious bodies, and, most importantly, our viewers. As we welcome the new year, we look ahead with a promise to bring you the best in broadcasting as we continue this journey with you. Season's greetings from all of us at NTA.
You have no better friend and partner than Nigeria. Let this unveiling today be a call to conscience. Let our practitioners hold the line of truth. To the media, please inform with integrity and with a deep sense of patriotism. To our public officers, communicate with transparency. To citizens, please let us speak with empathy. Let us come together to become the voice of responsibility, the voice of the world that heals division, that inspires hope and drives development.
Africa, a land of passion, pride, and power. Across this vast continent, the game runs deep. In every back alley, beach, and pitch, a billion hearts beat to one rhythm, the Africa Cup of Nations. We remember the kings of Cairo, when Zambia shook the world, when Nigeria soared, the dreamers of Yaoundé, when Senegal stood tall. Last time, the elephants rose. From the thunder of Casablanca to the lights of Marrakesh, the stage is set in Morocco. This is where the past meets the present, where new stories begin. 24 nations, one trophy, but no script.
Oh, what a strike!
The drums return. The ground shakes. The continent rises. This is AFCON 2025.
32 matches, every Super Eagles game, all live.
This is ours.
Afro Sport, your freedom of sport.
All right, welcome back to the program, and we're discussing how we can't prevent fire disasters. And Mr. Paul Abraham here has been speaking, and I had to take permission to put him on hold. But now that we're back, please, could you speak more on the issue of enforcement? And before I take my next question.
Yeah, so enforcement for us at the Federal Fire Service, it's an area that we're very passionate about. Controller General, in fact, just appointed a new head of enforcement. He needed to revamp that, place. And the young man, who has been so appointed, is doing a lot of work in the area of enforcement. However, we have a bill before the National Assembly because our act dates back 1963. That act is not sitting well in contemporary 2025 or 2026 Nigeria. So that act is before the National Assembly, and appeals and follow-up has been ongoing. And we hope that this season that we'll get that act, into law, so that we have a Fire and Rescue Service of Nigeria Act, maybe 2026. That is going to give us a lot of powers, to push our enforcement drive. But based on what we have, regulations, building code, and all of that, we're doing that the much, that we can in the area of enforcement. Madam, but I must drop this on private sector participation. A lot of Nigerians don't know, but Controller General has, again, mandated us at the Public Relations Unit, and we are reaching out. In fact, that is why I'm designated Head of Corporate Services. You can apply to have a private fire station in your estate, in your community. All you need to do is a simple letter to the Controller General requesting for an establishment of a fire station.
At what cost?
Basically, you provide infrastructure such as the land, a fire post, and then we deploy our men.
So which means that maybe estates can also apply for those services that you're talking about?
Yes, private individuals.
When you say fire post,
yes.
When you say fire post, just a post, I mean...
Yes, a post with, so we have some other, like I said, you have the conventional fire station.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have a fire post. A fire post is not as equipped as a fire station.
Okay.
But a fire post can maybe have a helix or a small rapid intervention truck that can carry maybe 3,000 liters of water and foam compound together.
So time that
the man from NEMA said it. You fight fire best at the incipient stage.
Yes. Okay.
So if, for example, an estate in Lugbe, for example, has a fire post and fire happens in that estate, the natural thing to do is to call the fire post. So they turn out with their small infrastructure and begin to do the much while they now call for assistant message. But if we now have to on the airport road, for example, we may have to deploy from SOCA, that's Nigerian Immigrations, or NAJCOMSAT. And fire may be on the other side, which is Trademore. 5-7 minutes after a fire call is late.
Okay. How much does it cost to erect a fire post? Because if you're asking residents of an estate, to provide land and a fire post, and it's going to cost them. I mean, if those are rent, residents. I mean,
it can be in partnership with the developer. That's what we're calling on private sector participation.
Okay.
It can be in partnership with the developer. You don't need you don't need a hectare or a full plot. You just need a reception, and where this small rapid infrastructure truck can be positioned.
The fire post, your men will be there.
We will man it at no cost.
Do you have enough officials to do when you?
Yes, we have. I mean, if we begin to get the calls,
yes.
It begins to interrogate whether we have enough men. But we want the calls to start coming.
Okay.
We have men that we can actually simply deploy.
You know why we're asking all these questions? Because I know there are people listening, residents within an area who probably would want to, take advantage of this.
Please, they should come quickly.
The helix and all the other equipment that will be, put in the post will be provided by whoever partners with you.
Yes, while we provide our men.
While you provide your men.
To man the fire post.
To just man the fire post.
At least bring firefighting closer to the people.
Okay.
Okay,
right.
sorry.
Thank you very much. Let's bring in
Yes, I have a question.
You're right.
And Demola, it's a question that, is personal. I just had a personal experience now. While we were on break. I actually put a call to 112, that's the emergency line. And it was rudely disrupted. And I'm just wondering, what could cause such, a breakdown at that first point of emergency contact?
Well, thank you. This is a human factor. Definitely, a lot of training will have to go into those people who are manning the call center. Well, this is an isolated case, but I assure you that it's something that we can work on. I may have to know, just to speak to some of the discussions that have been going on. One of the mandates of them, of course, to educate and enlighten.
I'm sorry to draw you.
Yes.
Yes. If this happens, I'm wondering how many other Nigerians could have experienced this kind of thing. What do you think might be the impact on emergency response if this happens?
Of course, it will be devastating, but you may also need to know that sometimes a lot of people call these numbers for fun. They just call the number, and before you know it, what they are discussing has nothing to do with disaster reporting. And maybe that is it's likely some of the things that may go on in the mind of the officer. But I tell you that it's an isolated case, and definitely it points to the fact that they need additional trainings, and that will have to be done.
When you talk about training now, let's look at training and the impact of it. Earlier on, Dr. Abbas talked about, the human conduct at this disaster scene. What are the best practices for conducting proper drills and evacuation procedures? Do you conduct it? Do you tell people how to behave, at the emergency scenes?
Yes, it's actually a basic requirement, and the fire services are at the forefront of that.
Yeah, I know.
Now, law stipulates that you should conduct fire drills at least once or twice in a year, and everybody within that building is supposed to participate in it. Now, fire drills are very, very, very critical because fire does not announce itself. But when you practice it, whoever has discovered a fire, it has some responsibilities. One is to set off the fire alarm system if it is existing. And if you hear the fire alarm system, you are supposed to evacuate the building through the nearest exit. And it is expected that you do not use the elevator, and it's expected that you do not run or you do not rush towards the exits. Now, from experience, really, when you go to incident scenes and where there are casualties, usually you find those casualties around the egresses, around the doors, because people panic in the event of a disaster, and there's that rush. So a fire drill gives consciousness, gives information on what to do. And as far as disasters are concerned, globally, the strategy for disaster management today is prevention. And drills are part of the things that you need to do. If you don't do that, then the more people there are who know what to do in the event of a disaster, it goes a long way to mitigate the consequences of disasters. Some of the consequences can be loss of life, injury, and even damage to property. Now, NEMA, who works with the National Youth Service Corps, we have the emergency management vanguards. Now, they are trained because they are found in virtually, there's hardly any community that you go to that you don't find a core member. And in the wisdom of management, we now have that for every batch, every stream. We train them. The fire service does the training. We call the fire service to do the training. And you also may need to know that floods too, the fire service is also a first responder when it comes to floods emergencies.
All right, sorry, we'll quickly have to take our messages before we go to our Zoom connections. Yes. Okay.
You want to take yours? Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Ladies first.
All right. Emmanuel from Ebonyi. Nigerians find it difficult to adhere to several safety fire instructions from the authorities. Like you will find out that many ignore the advice of not using fireworks during the Harmattan period, the use of jerry cans to sell fuel at roadsides and more. Until we learn to be disciplined and obey all laws and orders, we shall keep experiencing fire outbreak. Emmanuel from Ebonyi. Congratulations to the NTA. This program could not have come at a better time, and the quality of the discussions, along with the depth and insight of the contributors, has been very, truly outstanding. Kashim Umar from Kanu, thank you. Well done. The community leaders need to disseminate information to homes, especially at the grassroots. MD's involvement. This is Dr. Zainab Bolajoko Gegele Balogun from Kwara State. And good morning, Nigeria, and discussants from Mwefuru Hassan, Abakaleke. From the 1960s, there have been instances of fire being the handiwork of hoodlums who use the occasion of the confusion associated with fire as a good opportunity to loot commodities from the affected markets. So security needs and has to be tightened in and around the major markets in the country. Thank you. And thank you, all of you. Demola.
All right, let me read out this so that Dr. Idris can respond to them. The first one I have is from Nwefuru Aisen. It's a fire disaster, especially in market places, in marketplaces. It's known to have rendered many individuals and families to state of hopelessness economically. Okay, thank you very much. Then Nadom Wieb from Jos. He said, effective fire disaster prevention relies on vigilance and proactive measures in electrical, cooking, and environmental safety. Ironically, some of us are even using phones, which are even more expensive than buying a fire extinguisher. Well noted. Safety first. Thank you to the guest for the enlightenment. Have a good morning. God bless Nigeria. Thank you. We're from Jos. This one says, this Lamri Ginderi from Plateau. He says, fire is a friend and also an enemy. Fire Prevention Club should be introduced in schools and communities. All right, from Ambassador Caleb. All right, thank you, Ambassador. Then this from Chris Simon. Chris Simon says, in our respective communities, there are communal lands. During farming, dry season, individuals set fire and destroy the crops and farmland, even ban and farm structures. In this kind of scenario, does fire service have a role to play to curb this? Okay, I think your questions and comments are noted. We're going to go to Dr. Idris now to comment on some of this. And also, I want to ask Dr. Idris, what are the best ways to communicate fire safety and emergency procedures to the public? You know, you raised issues concerning that fire procedures and how public react. So what are the best ways to communicate fire safety and emergency procedures to the public?
Actually, if we are to really take fire prevention, all the stakeholders have a lot to do. And we start by bringing in the communities, the community leaders, and the way you catch them young with the schools, children, giving them the fire tips and how to really prevent them from doing so. And but we have neglected the home affairs, the domestic aspect, which we need to also bring. Most of the domestic fires start from our kitchens. Do we inspect and ensure that the equipments that are inflammable or causing the fire are really kept where they are, especially our cylinders? And who operate those cylinders? Are they trained? Do they know what to do? Do they know what it is called a fire blanket? Do they have it at our homes? If you go to, after this program, if you visit any of the plazas, choose any of the plazas in Abuja, visit them and be lucky that there is no light, and you will hate yourself. You see that at the door of every shop, they have a generator set, and all of them are working. And you cannot tell me that they don't have reserve fuel in their own shops. So these are the triggers of fire. Are we addressing them? Are we really addressing them? Why should we have a plaza that will not have single generator that will serve all the purposes?
Dr. Abbas, I'm afraid I have to really interject and pause you for a moment because we're quickly running out of time. Paul, Dr. Abbas just talked about the triggers, and for you, quickly, which of these items do you think pose a bigger threat, a fire threat? Is it candle users, gas cookers, generator users, extension cords in the house, or power fluctuations?
Samuel.
Sorry, Samuel. I'm sorry. Paul here, Samuel there. Samuel Obi, please, are you with us? Are you with us? Okay. Did you hear my question? Or I should repeat?
Yes, please. Repeat.
Okay. I'm saying Dr. Abbas talked about triggers of fire. Which of the following would you say pose a bigger, fire threat? Is it extension cord, power fluctuations, generator sets, gas cooker users, or candle users?
I would say all of it pose significant fire threat. And all of it because, there are standards way to use this in a safe manner. But what we have in our reality is that, for instance, electrical appliances, there are a lot of electrical appliances that are substandard, right? And there are no approval process that goes through for people to, you put these appliances that is fitting to the electrical connectivity. And so that's a problem. And so on the other hand, you use candle. We're human being, you make mistake, you could sleep, you could get distracted, and before you know it, it's transformed to another thing. So it's in fire safety, it's not a one factor thing. All of them contribute to it. And so it will require constant education, constant enforcement, and it has to come from a point of being proactive for us to get to that point where we would say that we've done enough to ensure that fire safety is enshrined in our national dealings.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for that. Constant education, constant training. Well, as we begin to just wind up this conversation, Mr. Abraham, what do you think are the takeaways that Nigerians can learn from?
That is a shared responsibility. It is not just fire service or NEMA or your neighbor. It's a shared responsibility. Everybody, all hands must be on deck, and we must come to the consciousness that, like we'll tell children, fire is a good servant, but it's a terrible master. So we must be on top of fire safety, even in our homes, in our workplace, and everywhere we go.
Okay, Mr. Bridges.
Yes, I just want to ask, what would be the escalation path if a distress caller receives a root response or a drop call on 112 emergency line?
Well, the truth about this alert system is that it doesn't come from only one source. There are other sources from which these alerts come. And we have also said here there are people who even drive to a fire station and report a fire incident. So all of this come together and it knocks off whatever weak link there is to attend to fire.
All right, Demola.
Okay. Thank you very much. We want to thank you, Beatrice Samuel, for the Deputy Director, General Services, NEMA. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Also, we want to thank Paul Abraham, Deputy Controller of Fire, National Public Relations Officer, Federal Fire Service, Head of Corporate Services. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, sir.
And a big thank you to Dr. Abbas Idris, President, Risk Managers Association of Nigeria and former DG FCT Emergency Management Agency. Dr. Abbas, thank you so much for your robust contribution.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to also thank Simon Patrick Obi, Supervisory Board Member, Youth for Road Safety. Thank you so much, Patrick Obi, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all of you that sent in your messages. We hope to do it again tomorrow. I'll be here. I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Bye-bye for now.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Do have a wonderful day.